Well, guess what, everybody? In today's episode of iRacing for Beginners, we're going to go race for the first time. You've made it this far, and assuming that you've gone into plenty of practice and test sessions, it's time to get down to the nitty-gritty and battle door-to-door, wheel-to-wheel with drivers from across the globe on the iRacing service. So we've opened up the iRacing UI once again, and we're going to search for a race session. So we're going to hit the Go Racing dropdown. We want this to be an official session, and what that means, it's got to meet our MPR. So if you're starting off as a rookie license and you want to get promoted, it's critical that you run sessions that meet your MPR. So you can actually filter the results by fixed setup if you don't want to run open setups, because you do not want to run a fixed setup in an open setup race. You'll get spanked, unfortunately, but there are plenty of setup shops out there that you can purchase open setups from if you're not building your own. For me, I'm an A-class license, but if you're a rookie, you might check rookie so that all the rookie sessions come up that you're eligible for. For me, I want to run A-class or B-class, so I check those off. You can do session if it's ranked, if it meets your MPR. Now, that's the critical thing. You have to run X amount of races to meet your MPR. I believe it's 3 or 4, and once you do that, assuming your safety rating is high enough, you will be promoted. So, if you want to run on oval, if you want to run on road, if you want to run dirt oval or dirt road, you can check those options. You can do race. One cool feature is you can actually join practice sessions before you go race somewhere. So that puts you in a test session basically with other cars on track. You can see what kind of speeds other people are running. You can be around other cars without it being necessarily official. There are race sessions now. So for us, I think it's a great time to go run a fixed. It sounds like it'd be a fun event, and we could talk more while I'm driving about some of the other features in iRacing. So you find the session you're looking for. Maybe it's a rookie road racing series or rookie street stocks oval racing series, whether it's dirt or dirt road. Like I said, you find that session, you update whatever content's required. So that if for this race, it's Lime Rock Park and the corresponding car that's racing at that track. You just hit update and allow it, and it goes. But I'm going to run a fix at Pocono, so I'm going to click register for the event. In this specific race, there are 3 cars to choose from, the 3 different manufacturers that are in the NASCAR Cup Series. I'm going to choose the Chevrolet Camaro. I've got my custom paint loaded from Trading Paints that'll show up once we're in the sim. We'll hit continue to register. Now, once this is up, we'll actually be able to hit join. And before the session goes live at 4 o'clock, we can withdraw. But if you withdraw from the session, once the session actually begins, you will lose a lot of iRating because it'll score you as last or that you did not start the race. So you do not want that to happen, of course. We'll try to prevent that by always knowing whether or not you can run the race session. You can withdraw from a session once the race begins. That means after you qualify and you take the grid, you can withdraw without having any sort of penalty, which allows you to then register for a next race. So say you're in a race that's going a bit long and you're not sure you can close the sim and get registered in time. You can open up the UI, assuming you have your graphics settings set up accordingly so it doesn't disrupt the sim. You can withdraw from the current session you're in while you're driving, and then register for a different session. So when that race is over, you can immediately join. For the most part, as long as you're not stacking races that tightly, you have plenty of time to complete your current event, leave the session, and join another one. So we found the race that we're looking for. It was up next. It was at 4 o'clock. It's currently 3:58. So we caught it just in time. We hit register. Then we join the session. And now we're in here. As we learned about earlier, some of the garage settings, I like to adjust my brake bias down in this car to about 52, we'll go 51.9. The steering pinion, this just adjusts the feel of the steering, the sensitivity of it. I'm going to apply that, hit done, and we'll hit practice and get some laps in while we wait for the session to begin. Qualifying for our race session is about to begin, so we can click race on the replay screen right here. So say we hit practice, we're in the car, we can leave the car and hit race right here in the top right and join the session. If you don't hit it, it'll eventually place you in the session, but now we are joining the official race session. And the reason I'm emphasizing this, and this is so important, is because of safety rating. If you crash or get any incidents, they will count. So safety rating is based on X amount of clean corners. So when you take a turn on a racetrack and you don't get any incidents, your safety rating increases, but it's by super small amounts. On road, thankfully, there's plenty of turns per lap that I think you gain safety rating a lot quicker than on an oval. In this case, Pocono only has 3 turns, so that's not many options, and the track's so long, the fixed races aren't as long as maybe a Martinsville race where you run 60 laps on a 4-turn track. We're only going to be running, looks like by the info tab, 30 laps on a 3-turn track. So when we get into our car here, we're going to adjust these settings to what we like, as we mentioned before. I do want to point out that on the results tab right here, there's some rules as well at the bottom right, or bottom left rather, that tell you some information about the race. When we go to results, you'll see the car number. I am number 3. Now, I have my paint shop setting to 33. Now, the reason I'm 3 in the race session is because I'm ranked 3rd in this split. So if 100 people signed up for this race, it might have put us in 3 different sessions split up evenly. And whatever split you're in is based on your iRating. So I have a iRating of over 6,000. So I'm pretty much always in the top split session. In this case, I'm ranked 3rd in this session. You can see Brian is number 1. You can see Jeremy up there is 25th. So that's all based on your iRating in your respective split. The split average, called the strength of field, is pretty much the average iRating of that split. Using RaceLab's app, a third-party software, it tells me that the strength of field is 4,300. 4,300 is the average iRating of this group in this split. So say there's 2 or 3 splits. Some nights there could be way more depending on the race you're running. But that's going to determine your rank, your iRating. I'll talk more about that once the race starts. But back to the topic of safety rating. As we roll out to qualify here, in that open practice session, if we were to crash and get an incident, it would count. Now, safety rating in the open practice, the 3-minute or 10-minute practice, depending on what type of event you're running, the safety rating only counts for a third or a quarter, if I'm not mistaken. So it's a very small amount if you do get an incident. But in qualifying, it goes up to about a half of what it does in the race. So you still don't want to be crashing or getting incidents in practice or qualifying. Ideally, when you go into the actual race, obviously everything's counting full, so you do not want to get any incidents. Right now, we're going to focus on putting a qualifying lap down, and I'll get back to you in a minute, and we'll talk more about safety rating and iRating. I just tapped the wall on my qualifying lap, and it says contact 0x. So 0x means it will not count for any incidents on our safety rating, fortunately. But if you do get a 0x on your qualifying lap, unfortunately, your lap will be disallowed. It will not count. So I should probably reset because the potential damage I have on my car could be slowing me down. But I'm just going to finish this lap to continue this discussion about safety rating. Incidents come in a couple different forms. An off-track, which is 1x, a loss of control, which is 2x, or 0 to 2x, or 2 to 4x, car contact. Car contact is usually a 4x. So the tricky part about iRacing incidents is it may not be your fault. You can get spun out or crashed from behind, and it's the other guy's fault, but you still get the incidents. You both will get 4x's. You do not want to get much more than that per race. This lap's really slow because I'm distracted. Because you'll start to lose safety rating. So I think it's 12x you get a penalty, like a black flag. And then 16 or 17x you get disqualified from the event. So that's really bad because obviously you'll get a poor result and you'll also lose a crazy amount of safety rating. So the lap felt super sloppy. Yeah, we're starting 8th. Not thrilled about that. Back on the topic of safety rating, the more clean laps you complete, the higher your safety rating is. Assuming you're running in an official race in a series that meets your MPR, once you hit over 3.0 safety rating, or 4.0 safety rating rather, you will be promoted to the next class. So say you have to run 3, if you're C class, or if you're rookie, you have to run, it's either 4 or 5 races at that MPR. So you got to run 3 or 4 rookie class events and get your safety rating up to be promoted to D class, and then from D to C, C to B, and B to A. So it's critical that you keep running clean races to get your safety rating up so you can actually be promoted. iRating comes in the form of your finishing position. That's more skill or iRacing result average. So if you do really well, your iRating is going to go up. If you do poorly, your iRacing is going to go down. Unfortunately, for me right now, running in a strength of field that's 4,300, that may be a lot for some people, but for me, I'm ranked 3rd in this split, and if I don't run top 5, I'm probably going to lose iRating. So being that we joined the session really late, I didn't get many practice laps, the odds are not in my favor to do super well. But now we have this green button at the top of the screen that we can hit grid. Now we're on the grid. We're ready to roll. We're about to begin racing. I'm 3rd in the split. I'm starting 11th. I'm probably down quite a bit of iRating. If I were to crash or get crashed, I will lose a lot of iRating because if I can't finish a race, obviously my finishing position is going to decrease my iRating significantly. If I do really well, my iRating will go up, and that's pretty much it. I mean, iRating doesn't necessarily mean you're good or bad at iRacing. I mean, some people don't do a ton of official races. They do a lot of hosted and league races that are unofficial. Some people just kind of float around a certain number because they prefer to, or they like lower. They're good at running lower strength of field. For me, it's really hard because I got all the way up to 6,500, and then I was kind of cold turkey and not sim racing for a while because of a lot of other things going on in my life. So now when I hop on and race, especially at this time in the day where the strength of field's lower, it's really hard for me to go perform at the level I need to maintain my iRating. So it's usually going down if I don't run super competitively. So in conclusion, safety rating is ultimately what determines your license class. Just because you're an A license class does not necessarily mean you're the best iRacer, and don't let people fool you saying, oh, I'm an A class and everything, because that doesn't matter. That means they just ran a bunch of clean races, which could be as simple as riding around in the back of the pack, not getting caught up in any incidences, and meeting their MPR in all the specific events to get promoted and get to license class A. What is a little bit more telling about a driver's ability on iRacing is their iRating. So some people, they might not even be an A class, but they have a higher iRating. For the most part, if they're above, just say 4,000, they're probably an A class driver. So like I said, performance basically doesn't matter when you're starting out with sim racing. Just go run clean races, work your way up, earn your license classes. You do want to do battle, develop some racecraft before you get to those higher license classes, of course. But it is important that you just kind of learn those basics and get comfortable running clean races so that you can get to where you want to be and then go out there and focus on your performance and increasing your iRating. You saw we rolled off a pit road and we're approaching the green flag. I just hit refresh on my trading paints by hitting Control R. That's why everything looks a little silly. It's a great example of what it looks like when it's messed up. I may have to refresh it here later. But get ready. Stay in line. You cannot pass before the start-finish line. Green flag's out. We can get rolling here, up through the gears. You saw us roll off pit road as we were coming around the track and getting started. This guy in the middle is kind of getting freight trained, but I think I want to roll with it right now. Well, this is intense. Tight racing. You see I got a 0x from that car. We barely touched each other. We're 3 wide right now, so the racing's pretty intense. I'm going to get back up to the top lane here where the momentum is. Caution's out. Okay, so caution's out. We're going to slow down. It's going to tell you which car you need to be behind, what car you maybe need to let by. The paint's updated while we were going through turn 1 there, so I have my proper paint scheme back on, and so does everybody else. Took a second to refresh. Don't forget to use those black boxes if you want to see the relative. These are the 3 cars in front and behind you, standings, which you could even scroll through, and then your lap times, laps to go, time in the race. Fuel, you could turn on or off or adjust the amount you're going to take. Tires, you could turn them on or off or which ones you're going to take on the pit stop if you do come down pit road. After you pit for tires, you can see your wear on the last set that was taken off of the car. And then you have some brake bias adjusters. You can adjust your dash page right there. And then everything else through the black box commands. But those are some of the features you're going to want to be using while driving, is adjusting fuel and tires for pit stops accordingly, because you could save yourself some time or strategize a better finish. You can hear the voice chat from other drivers. I can obviously key up and use that hotkey we programmed in the earlier episode to be able to communicate with other drivers in the field. So when it comes to safety rating, it counts during the open practice session, in your race session, the qualifying session, and the race. As I said earlier, the practice counts for either a third or a quarter of it. I think the race is obviously a whole safety rating, and then your iRating is going to be based on where you finish in the event. So safety rating and iRating are pretty much what make up a user's profile in iRacing. You can see how clean they've been racing, depending on their license class or where their safety rating is. That kind of helps you keep in mind if you could be aggressive or maybe need to tiptoe so you don't get demoted, because if you get below a certain safety rating, you can lose your license. You'll have to earn that class back through those MPR races that actually are required for the next license class. iRating fluctuates up and down depending on your performance. You know, some race weeks are more chaotic than others, like running at the super speedways. You get caught up in a lot of accidents. You lose a lot of iRating. But maybe you do super well at a certain track, and if you grind that week out, you can gain a lot of iRating. If you're really concerned about increasing your iRating, I just recommend finding a specific series or two that you're really competitive at or really want to master and go race. I race a little bit of everything, so that's why I float around that 6,000 to 6,500 mark. But if you want to really grind, I mean, I could sit here and find 1 or 2 car and track combos I'm really good at and just farm iRating and get up to, 7,000 or more, and just kind of float around there. But I like to just hop on, have fun, whether I'm super competitive or not, just for the joy of it, engaging with the community, racing with all of you. And when that happens, sometimes I lose iRating, sometimes I gain iRating. It's just a part of it. But the important thing is not to let it overwhelm you, because we've all went through our phases where you're so panicked about your iRating. Maybe when you start sim racing, you're so panicked about your safety rating because you're trying to get to A class or whatever the next license class is, so you can race in, more advanced cars at more advanced tracks. But obviously you can purchase any of that content and test or practice that on your own. But if you actually want to compete at it, you got to earn those license classes and rank up, so to speak. So that's important when it comes to safety rating starting out, and then kind of when you get to wherever you want to be, or maybe at the same time you're just focused on racing and performing well and increasing your iRating. So just don't let it consume you. Either way, it's a lot of fun, and as you can see under these pace laps, we finally made it to 1 to green. So when we cross the start finish line there under caution, it says 1 to green. It's telling me to line up in the outside lane behind the 2 car. Obviously, we've got to wait till the pace car pulls off. The leader's going to start the race. If we are restarting on the front row, it will tell us that the leader's firing in the restart zone, and we cannot launch before him or get ahead of him. You cannot pass to the inside before the start-finish line, but you can pass to the outside. So, without further ado, we'll get back to green flag racing and see how this thing shakes out. We're only on lap 4 of 30. So, we've worked our way up to about 5th place so far. We only made it 2 laps right there. It's lap 6 of 30. You can see in the bottom right of the screen on the relative bar. Tells you my last lap time. One thing a couple of these guys are talking about in the voice chat is the strength of field, as I mentioned earlier. So there's a couple splits because it's getting later in the day. Quite a few people are online. There might be, as I said earlier, 2 or 3 splits of A fixed. We're running Class A oval fixed setup. And some of these guys were talking about their iRating of what this is. So it's a average iRating in this field is 4,300. That's why it's a 4.3K strength of field. I am ranked number 3 in the lobby. I have the 3rd highest iRating in the lobby. I have to finish well to gain iRating because of that. Right now I should be in the sweet spot, but I got to do even better to gain even more. It's sort of exponential, if you will. The better you do, the more you'll gain. The worse you do, the more you'll lose. So somebody's, Dalton speaking right now is number 14. So if he runs top 8 or 9, he'll probably gain a fair amount of iRating. If he runs top 5, he'll get a good chunk. For me, I kind of have to finish towards the front to gain just because of where I'm ranked. Somebody that's 22nd, maybe they just have to be top 15 or so. But obviously, the worse you do, like I said, the more you'll lose. The better you do, the more you'll gain. And it's all kind of based on where you rank in that specific split, based on the strength of field, what the average is, and where you rank overall. So the splits, like I said, are made up of how many people are running a race. If you're trying to make it in eNASCAR and you're running Road to Pro, there's hundreds, if not thousands of drivers competing. So there's 1,000 drivers. Well, that's a lot of splits of 30 to 40 drivers. So those get really competitive, and the strength of fields get really high. There'll be 3 or 4 splits that have strength of fields higher than this A fixed event right here. So that's kind of the topic of safety rating and iRating, and I'm sure I gave you the long run details about it. I probably could have summed it up in a little more basic way, but instead of being super general, I tried to be more specific and give you some circumstances or examples to think about in your head while we're running this race. So I will check back in with you guys at the end of this race, and we'll see our safety rating and iRating, how it's affected by looking at the results in the UI. Okay, everyone, it's the last lap. We're currently in 4th place. Try to finish this race strong, but now that the white flag is out, this will end the race. If people wreck, there will not be a caution. We race back to the line. So the race is official right now. No more cautions. We've got to race back to the checkered flag and finish this thing off strong.
I'm in the most intense battle on the track, talking the most, and you guys are talking a lot of crap about me.
It's a 4,300 SOF race. Everybody in here should know how to drive. We don't need your coaching.
A lot of arguing going on. I'm glad I hadn't recorded the whole thing. All right, we're coming off the final corner.
We don't need coaching. Okay.
Back to the finish line. We finished 4th place in this race, and we had 0 incidents. So that is great. Incidents do still count until everyone's crossed the finish line and it says the race is official. So you don't want to just, after the checkered flag, demolish someone or drive straight into the wall or wreck your car, because it still counts. A lot of people make that mistake. They work hard to run a clean race, and they think as soon as they cross the line, they can just cause an incident. But you do not want to do that, certainly. So we'll exit our car with our hotkey. We'll go to the UI and see what kind of iRating we gained. We're going to leave this session. Currently on our home page here. We'll go to results and stats. My results. We'll see the session we just ran. The race session actually should pop up here shortly. Results ready. Here they are. It actually pops up at the bottom and asks if you want to see them. So we gained 0.18 safety rating. You can see how little we gained in that event. But we did gain 39 iRating. So we're up to 62.15, and we gained 39 from finishing 4th place. The strength of field was 4,319. You can see laps completed 30, 3 cautions, 9 caution laps, 1 lead change. Tells you how many laps people led, and then where everybody finished in the event. Obviously, everybody's an A-class license because that was an A-class race. But you can see their safety rating, their iRating, what they gained, what club they're part of, division, and whatnot. So that is going to wrap up running your first race on iRacing. So hopefully that was helpful, kind of got the nerves settled. You went out there, did it. I hope it went well for all of you. I hope it goes well if you're watching this ahead of time and preparing for it. But maybe that gives you a good taste of what to expect. I appreciate the support as always. This is probably the most important episode of the iRacing for Beginners series. I appreciate everyone who's been watching and showing support. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye.